Hello and welcome back to our Star Wars Resistance recap show, Viva la Resistance, right here on Dedicated Art. My name is Christo and I am your host this week. With me, unfortunately, we are a Nico less, but Case and I will do our best to talk about the episode The Engineer in his absence. And Case, I think it's safe to say there's plenty to talk about still, regardless that we're unfortunately down a person.
This is true. This was an episode that got more into the plot, it seems, with the First Order finally again being involved. To me, this episode was completely like Star Trek Beyond, where there's someone in trouble who isn't all she appears to be, and then turns out to be working for the bad guys at the end. So that was. The parallel was something that I enjoyed. Now I thought it was a good episode. I'm just not a fan of the ending because it's yet again the same thing.
Kind of, and it does feel like that. And we'll get more into that in a little bit. But let's start this off with where we are. So everything's falling apart on the Colossus. Everything is just, not quite so hunky-dory after the last couple episodes. And, power's not working. Apparently the pirates are stealing half the power, or so it may seem. But Are they? Whoa. But, there's a distress call. Someone in a different part of the galaxy is in trouble, and Kaz goes to help them. They're the only ship in range. If y'all know this song and dance, you're familiar with this setup, because, hold on a minute, doesn't this remind us of the Season 1 episode, Signal from Sector 6? Just a little bit. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, because how funny is it? Like, the writers knew this was similar, because who else should Kaz go take one of the Lothal transports to go rescue this person other than Sonara, who... lest we forget, how was she introduced to the story? They did the exact same thing. So, I thought that was a nice little callback to having, to how she came into the show and how the pirates came into the show, because the pirates do play a big part of this episode, kind of like how they have been playing a big part of this season. Case, what were your thoughts on seeing Kaz and Sonara finally in a completely platonic way? No holes in our ship.
No, there are no holes in our ship, luckily. Sonara and Kaz seem to be, good friends, but I'm very happy that Sonara keeps him honest, because Kaz is extremely naive at times, and that's where he truly needs someone like Sonara to keep him honest, to make sure that he isn't as trustworthy of everyone, because... lest we forget, that's the exact same thing that happened with Sonara. He was way too trustworthy, and then suddenly we have a pirate on the Colossus being able to, get the pirates in. So that's just, I think that was a very good decision, because the moment that they meet the engineer Nena, Sonara is skeptical about her. She doesn't trust her, and she actually goes in there with blasters. And Nena plays it off like she's very innocent, but like the moment you get there, you're like, I have a bad feeling about this. However, the moment that Nena and Nico meet, it's like, oh yeah, no, I ship this. This has to happen. This is our Kaz and Tora 2.0.
Yeah.
So like at that moment, I kind of forgot that about my suspicions, but
well. And that's actually kind of the power of, this episode, where you would think, everyone would be distrusting of her, but of course, as soon as Neeku trusts her, all of us, we're just like, guard down, because we like Nena. She's a very capable engineer, and what does the Colossus need right now? It needs a very capable engineer who can fix it up.
Yes. Exactly.
And what happens with that, we'll get to more in a second. But while that's going on, there's a fun little subplot about how the pirates are supposedly stealing half the power in the Colossus.
Well, who's the person who figures that out? Nena. And that's because she needs to find out a way for her to be able to have power and not and make sure that she seems innocent. So that's why she does that. And you have that moment where Nico and Nina are working on something, and Nina straight up admits to Nico like, "Oh, I haven't been fixing the ship," and then Nico thinks it's a joke, so he's like, "Well, then you're doing a terrible job." But well, she wasn't exactly lying, and
No.
that's also like just typically Niku not believing, like he constantly has this moment not believing the extremely obvious when it's said to you, because um, despite it being so extremely obvious, it would also be very mean and very illogical, and that's where Niku's brain just doesn't comprehend. It's funny to see.
Because as we have said a couple times throughout this show and throughout talking about Resistance, Neeku is an allegory for Asperger's. And, Case, Neeku, and I all have Asperger's. We're all on the spectrum, so we all very much relate to that, which is why we were so trusting of Nina as soon as she meets Neeku. But of course, as the episode keeps going, we do have it revealed to us that, oh, she is in fact working with the First Order. She has, Commander Pyre on speed dial, and it's that simple fact that we don't want to accept it because Neeku liked her, we want to like her as well. But everyone else is still skeptical. Captain Doze is skeptical. Kaz had to open his eyes thanks to Sonara, who, thank God, was always the voice of reason in this episode. And side note, I'm glad that she's been the voice of reason so far this season.
Yeah, but
Because
that's essentially what she needs to be, because Sonara um, has more experience, more life experience, and also just yeah, just knows how people deal. She is a pirate herself, so being a pirate yourself, that means you're not like the best person in the galaxy, and that does give you the experience of knowing how certain people work. And she just the moment that she met Nina, like she felt something was off, and that's why she is there to keep Cass honest, and that's pretty much her entire role throughout the series, since she has fully committed to being a friend of Kaz, and yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, and so before we hit the ending, something I want to bring up that I found that I really appreciated was how there was very much so an Empire Strikes Back feel to this episode, in the sense of, even though we were constantly fixing the ship, things were constantly falling apart. It's just like when, oh, well, we fixed the hyperdrive. Oh yeah, watch this. No light speed, but it's not my
It,
fault.
it's in so many things, like any type of movie or media. You fix one thing, two more problems come in its place, and that just piles up until the problems are not overseeable anymore. And that is one of the reasons why they are so trusting of Nina, because she seems to be fixing everything without much problems. And they're like, oh, yeah, please continue this, because they're desperate. They have nothing else. They need to. But yeah, she sabotages pretty much everything. Then when she gets found out, she runs back to her ship. There was a huge issue I had here, because
Let's talk about this.
Sonara is waiting for her outside her ship. So the moment that you like miss her, oh, she just runs into the ship, closes the door, and you can't get her anymore. Why didn't you wait in the ship to make sure that you can, catch her and she can't get off? And even if she gets off, you're with her on the ship and you can still do something about it. Oh my God, this was so frustrating, because then she gets away. She signals the First Order. That was extremely satisfying after the last couple of episodes, which were very filler. Like, okay, finally you have a Star Destroyer. But just like every other time, Star Destroyer comes in, they quickly fix it, they get out of there.
I mean, we got a little action with the TIE fighters, but no, I actually do understand your frustration. It's like, come on, can we get a dogfight? Can we actually
Yeah.
have a Star Destroyer versus the Colossus? Can we get that kind of action? But
And that's the thing. This was set up 2 episodes ago when they trained the Aces, and we were expecting, okay, despite the fact that it might seem filler at the time, maybe it'll come back because at least the Aces are able to fight now. No, that doesn't come back. They don't go into a fight, and they just get away just like every other time.
the reason I'm
Look,
actually okay with her getting away though is because knowing the writers, knowing what they did in the first season, I know they'll bring this back. This won't be a Bebo situation, even though that little reference to Bebo at the end was hilarious.
yeah.
But why would you let her get away unless you unless you had a reason to bring her back? And
Yeah, no, that's true. I do feel like she would come back. However, I think it would be a lot more interesting and yeah, like what if they had captured her and kept her on the Colossus to well, I don't know, but she would be on the Colossus as a First Order spy, and that would tie into the next episode. That instantly sets up for the next episode, makes us extremely interested to see what happens in the next episode, so that we want to see it. But no, she gets away, and we're like, okay, whatever. This might come back, this might not. Who cares? And that's essentially my biggest issue with the episode is that we finally get into the plot again. We finally get the First Order again, and then it's like this, it's gone again. And that I get it that they're doing these one and done episodes where it needs to tie up in a nice neat bow so that the next episode can do whatever it wants. But I would very much prefer how the second half of last season did, where every single episode seems to set up for the next one, and the next one instantly continues with the storyline, rather than these one-offs that have no connection whatsoever. Because, like, this is the last season. We need to. There needs to be somewhat of a continuing plot that carries forward. And I know that the overall plot of the First Order threatening to get them is always there, but I would want to see I would want to have more like
a
more,
more continuous narrative as opposed to the
yeah,
episodic narrative that it feels like we're
yeah,
having. Okay.
and also just more of a need to, yeah, like more they it needs to be more urgent, it needs to be more pressing, where uh, you just you just have the constant feeling of the First Order can get them at any moment, and you want the Colossus to have somewhat of a hand in that. Like if they would have Nina, that would be a bargaining tool essentially, and that would give you a certain power that you don't have right now. Because now we're still back to the Colossus is in not a good shape. They need to get to I don't know where, and the First Order is right on their tail, so they're running. However, I still don't really feel the necessity after an episode like this when they get away again, just like the other episodes. And it would be nice to have a little bit more of a balanced fight in that regard, where we see that they can actually capture something of the First Order, keep that as a bargaining tool to make sure that what if the First Order comes in again, they can say, hey, we have your spy or something. Maybe the First Order doesn't care and just shoots anyway, but hey, at least you have something. And I would feel that capturing, yeah, I'm kind of repeating myself, I feel, but it would just be so much better, in my opinion, if they had kept Nina, if Sonara was smarter about it, and that would have been more interesting to me. That's why I'm just a little disappointed with the end of the episode.
I'm not gonna say I'm against that idea because I'm not. I'm 100% for that idea. I just think they didn't because obviously there's some bigger plan in mind. You know, as it usually is with the showrunners of Resistance. Like they haven't really let us down before as far as bringing something back. So that's why it is a little frustrating because yeah, there is a better way to do this, but again, we don't have the context of the full season. So
This is
we'll
this is true,
but
and Look, I'm just saying this from someone who has been a little let down with the start of the season because in the first 5 episodes, the most plot heavy one was the second one. The rest has seemed like a lot of filler, and then finally, when we get an episode like this where we get the First Order again, it is way too easy for them to just get away and go back to like nothing happened. So that's why where I'm just a
Hmm?
little disappointed. But I guess we just have
We're
to wait and see. And hey, maybe this might turn out to be one of my favorites when the season is over because of maybe Nina's involvement later in later episodes. But I'm just basing it off of this episode because I haven't seen the rest of the season.
of course.
Um,
Well,
I did like it that at the end of the episode, Neeku he said that Kaz was his bestest friend. It was fun. It was funny. And yeah,
oh,
as you said, like when he's like, oh yeah, and I love Bebo.
I wonder what Bebo's up to. You know, uh, yeah, and so to wrap up, to give some final thoughts, at least on my end, I'll just say this. I think the reason I'm so forgiving of how some of this episode went down is because we haven't really had a Niku episode since Bebo.
This is true.
And we all know that I didn't really care for that episode. So I'm just glad that I have a Niku episode that is worth a damn finally. You know,
Hmm.
to have one that really gets into some of his background because I didn't know what his past was before he came to the Colossus.
No.
This son of farmers. Oh, okay, cool. Uh, and he's always just been super interested in mechanical stuff, even if he isn't necessarily that good at it. Awesome, and I love how, actually, and I love that final conversation that he and Kaz have, where, uh, he's like, oh, but I shouldn't have been so trusting, and Kaz actually, I agree with Kaz when he says to him, no, don't be sorry, because in a way, Niku's like openness and kindness is kind of his gift.
Yeah. No, it is. And Cass in that regard is the same, and that's why Cass still is very trusting of people because he wants to see the good in people, and Niku has the same need, and that's why uh, they're the resistance. They're not the First Order because the First Order doesn't believe in any good in people, and just they're very mechanical in that regard. Like we don't care about people. If people are not worth our time, then goodbye. I don't
Blast
need
them.
you. Um, and that shows the difference in morality between the two. However, uh, that's why I'm happy that Sonar is there as Kaz's help, as Kaz's like logical conscience, maybe I don't know,
Yeah.
where she is the one who will just keep him toned down and be like, hey. I know you're a good guy, and I know you want to trust everyone, but not everyone is trustworthy, especially not in the situation we're in.
So wait, Case, if I'm hearing this right, you're saying that she is his Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, a little, yeah. No, that's true. The
All
only
right.
difference is that Cass's nose doesn't grow.
You know what? I think Tora appreciates that more than anyone. Okay. Did you have any other final thoughts?
No, I think I said my piece.
All
I
right.
just, I
Well,
just, I just hope the rest of the season picks up because I want to get into it. I want it to get more interesting.
please, yes, yes. So yeah, we're on the same boat there. But guys, until the next episode, when hopefully it picks up a little bit more. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Viva la Resistance. Please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And, Case, where may the good folks find you online?
At Dutch Movie Guy on Twitter, Case Creators on Facebook and Letterboxd. For the people who don't know what Letterboxd is, it's essentially a social media thing where you can review movies, log movies, show to your friends what movies you're watching and how much you like them. And I actually use it, and Chris doesn't. So when he plugs himself on Letterboxd, it's like, yeah, don't bother. Uh, and You can find me hosting dedicated to arts Schmodown reactions. There are going to be a lot of those because team tournament is starting, and we're going to have 3 of those matches per week now. So look out for that. Um, and competing in matches over at Full Movie Trivia Face Off. And, well, I still competed in the Full Metal Random Rebels match. So go to Full Metal Trivia to see how well I did against Nico. I think I did well.
Yeah, you kind of smoked him, but that's okay. You guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, Letterboxd, and Discord at Skywalker Doman. And yes, I will be logging Midway, the new Roland Emmerich film tonight. It'll probably be 1-2 star, I'm sure, but still,
Thanks.
at least I do use it, unlike what Case tries to say. And of course, I host the Who Cares Any podcast right here on Dedicated to Art, where this week I'll be sitting down with a good friend of mine, Mark Riley, to talk about all things writing and horror and Schmodown, of course, because, yeah, team tournament's coming up. Will Who's the Boss maybe win 2 years in a row? We'll never know until it's all said and done. But until next time, guys, Viva la Resistance!
May the force be with you always.
Yeah!